Good evening, everyone. I am Alicia, also known as AVP 60685, and I want to welcome you all that are watching, whether you're watching from Facebook or you're watching from the YouTube channels. Thank you so much for coming out. If you can put in the comments down below to let me know who's watching from there. Hey, Jody, welcome. So let's get things started. Basically, we all know that 2020 is an election year. We get an election every 2 years here in the United States. And not everyone in the United States knows the importance about voting. Hello, Crystal. Good to see you, my dear. So basically, this stream is going to be talking about the importance of voting, explaining why you should vote. Also, I'm going to explain what I do as an election judge or a poll worker, how that's very, very significant and why you should sign up for this kind of job. Because not everybody signs up for this kind of job and they think, oh, it's just a volunteer kind of thing, but it is very important and your vote will count. So first of all, let's stress the importance of making sure that you are registered to vote. Now, let me explain something. Registering to vote needs to be done before the election takes place on November the 3rd of this year. So if you can, please, please, please make sure you are registered to vote in your state of residence. Meaning if you live in, say, a state of DC, make sure you're registered to vote in DC. If you are registered to vote in the state of Maryland, make sure you're registered there because you're living there. Wherever you're living, make sure you're registered in that particular state. Because the thing is, if not, they can't send you a voter registration card. They can't send you information on where to go vote. So you can do that at the motor vehicles. You can do that online. I know we're all in shutdown right now, but there's also websites that are out there that let you know where you can go register to vote. And one of the things you want to make sure is that you do is you register to vote as quickly as possible. Now, here in the state of Maryland, we have one thing that's different that other states do not have, I don't think, but if they do, and if you live in another state, let me know if they have this policy. But here in the state of Maryland, we have this, which they just started this year, is where you can register to vote the same day as the election. So that means if I'm a brand new voter and I have never registered to vote any time prior to November the 3rd, 2020, I can go into the voting place to go vote and say, hey, I'm a new voter. I've never voted before. Can I go vote? And they will allow you to do that. I don't know if other states do that. So if you're in another state and they do that, that's great. But if you don't, the important thing is to make sure you register as quickly as possible, because if you don't register, you're going to miss out on so much with that. I mean, I know I registered to vote in 2003 when I was still a senior in high school. And the thing is, that was one of the things that our guidance counselors gave us, and our class vice principal said, hey, here's a voter registration card. You register to vote based on what you think is right. So if you feel like the Republican Party is the one that is what you support, go for it. If it's the Democratic one, go for that. If you think it's an independent, go for that. Whichever party you feel like is the better choice for you in your personal opinion, then you go with that choice. I can't tell you what is your personal choice because that's you. That's not me. What I choose to vote is my own personal preference. I choose to follow the one that seems to follow the most Christian values and what is mostly godly. Obviously, there's not a perfect individual out there who is running for office, but the thing is, you try to choose, as I've heard a lot of people say, you choose the lesser of two evils, so to speak. So I typically try to go with the one that follows the godly guidelines and practices, basically. So that's the thing that I make sure I always do. If I'm not sure on it, I will call the candidate's polling office and say, hey, what does your candidate stand on these issues that are important to me? And once I find out where they stand on that, I'll pray about it. If I'm still not sure, then I may or may not vote for that individual or individuals, depending on what it is. Hey, good to see you, Corinne. Good to see you, my good friend. So, like I said, make sure you're registered to vote prior to November 3rd, 2020 of this year. Like I said, here in the state of Maryland, we do have the registration open for those that are in the state of Maryland the same exact date. I know some of you are living in other states, but please, I'd like to know, does your state have the same day registration for voting? Let me know in the comments down below. Because I don't know if you have that policy, but here in the state of Maryland, we have that policy where we're allowing people to come in and vote and say, hey, I've never registered to vote before. I'd like to vote. So make sure you are registered to vote prior to November 3rd, 2020. That way you can get your absentee ballot or you can vote in person. I know here in Maryland that you can do either one, but like I said, I don't know if in the other states they have that policy where you can vote the same exact day. So if you're in a state and they do that, let me know if they have that policy. But like I said, I know in Maryland we have that policy that you can vote the same day as the election. We used to not have that policy, but they just recently changed that because I think they're getting a lot of brand new voters out there and saying, okay, let's get them in the poll books. That way we can get as many voters out there as possible. The thing that's so sad is that there's so many people out there that may be registered to vote and they think, oh, but my vote doesn't count. First of all, your vote does count. The only vote I will say that does not ever count is if you yourself do not cast that ballot. Let's say this is a ballot and you don't do anything on that ballot and you leave it blank. You don't sign it, nothing. That vote is obviously going to be thrown out. But if you do sign it and you did everything you could, then that vote will count. I'll explain why I say that. As an election judge, there are times during the day when we have to give a total of what our voters are throughout the day. We get one at the very beginning of the day, which is called a zero report, which is similar to a receipt, sort of like this. And it will let us know how many people voted. Obviously, at the very beginning, it's going to be zero, completely zero, to show it was not tampered with. I know people are worried about tampering, but the thing is, if you see that, it's never, ever, ever tampered with at the very beginning. If it's tampered at the very beginning, they have to shut down all the equipment and get fresh equipment from the board and everything. And once they get that fresh equipment, then they can start using that fresh equipment again. They get these numbers throughout the day. They get one at the very beginning, which is going to be the zero report. Then they'll get one, say, at lunchtime, which is going to be another account. That's going to be obviously more than zero. Then they're going to get another one prior to the polls closing, and then they'll get one final count at the very end of the night. At the very end of the night, you get a thing that's much longer than this, and they have all the numbers of every single person that came out to vote at that particular voting site, and lets you know, hey, there was maybe 1,000 people that showed up here. There was 500 people that voted here, whatever. Like I said, throughout the day, we are contacting the board, letting them know how many people are there. That way we can let them know, hey, we need more equipment for the next election, or we need less equipment. Because where I work, the last couple of times, I was constantly giving that number to our chief judges, and they are giving it to the board, and the board is then giving the information to other board members saying, okay, this place needs more voters, this place needs less, whatever. They give that number throughout the day, and they always, always, always print the zero report at the very beginning of the day, which is taped outside of the voting site. And then at the end of the night, we take that zero report down, tape the report that's got all the numbers on it, and we tape that outside. That way, if we got poll watchers or people that are challengers or people that are monitoring for a particular candidate, they can look over and say, okay, Candidate XYZ got 200 votes. Candidate QRS got 50 votes. Candidate ABC got 700 votes. Like I said, they always go outside the voting site, and they're always counted down, because I have seen them, because they have a clipboard in their hand, they've got a pen, and they are literally straining their heads and necks to look over those papers to say, okay, my candidate that I'm working for got these number of votes. My candidate here got these number of votes. My candidate here got these votes. That way, nobody is ever tampered with. Nothing is ever tampered with when we start out. If it is, we shut it down, we stop it right then and there, and we immediately contact the board and say we need fresh equipment sent out. Because we always monitor out throughout the day to make sure that none of our tamper tape is ever tampered with. If it's tampered with, then we have to shut it down. That's very much a serious offense, because they will say straight up, you cannot mess with this equipment because it's been compromised. So we always are checking to make sure, is the equipment tampered with? Is it okay? What's going on? Also, we have a technician to make sure our equipment is running smoothly. Yes, we do have equipment, even though our ballots are mostly in paper, but there are some equipment that has to be done with electronic, such as a scanner that we have, which is larger than your average filing cabinet. It's probably at least 100 to 200 pounds. And basically that scans every single ballot that goes in there. And it basically, the ballots are counted throughout the day. And at the very end of the night, we grab those bundles. We don't read what they say, but we put them in bundles of, say, 25, because most ballots are 2-page. Some will be 3-page, some will be 4-page. But the thing is, you are constantly checking to make sure that those bundles stay in those bundles. Whatever comes into your contact at the polling site as an election judge, you make sure it stays there. So if anything got tampered with or anything like that, let's say I had a receipt and I typed up the wrong name, that does not get thrown out. That tampered piece of paper will be given to a chief judge, and they'll write on the paper, spoiled. And they will take that and put that into a folder, which is sent to the board, and they will lock that up, and then they will do whatever they do with it. But nothing is thrown out. Nothing. Everything stays right there in the polling site. It does not leave the polling site, because the thing is, once the polls open officially at 7 a.m. in the morning, and then when we extend the polls till, say, 8 o'clock, or it could be longer, because some polls may have to be open later due to the weather. Because I did have to work the elections one year when we did have a really bad weather storm, and in that kind of situation, we did have to work later, because it was court ordered by the governor, and we had to stay there later, and we had to take care of every single person that came in there to vote. And once we finished, then we shut it all down. But we made sure we had everything recorded that was supposed to be recorded. And once it was recorded, then we locked it up, and then we sent that to the board, but not before. We never send it beforehand. We always keep it all safe, because that's one of the things you always do as an election judge. You always make sure your place is safe. If it doesn't seem safe, then you contact the board and say, hey, something's not right. Something's been tampered with. Something doesn't feel right. They'll shut it all down. Next thing of equipment that you need to have when you're registered to vote. This is my voter registration card. Obviously, you can't see the information, but this is one thing that you need to make sure you have when you're registered to vote. Here in the state of Maryland, there's a thing called a voter ID number. This is very, very important. You need to make sure that your state has one of these things, because that number should never change. So that means if I go from one county to another county in the state of Maryland, I can still be pulled up in the system. But if I go to another state, I will get a different voter number. This voter number is very, very important, because the thing is, if they can't find you via your name or your address, what they will do is, which I always recommend to my election judge colleagues, I always say, look for the voter ID number. That voter ID number will help them find you every single time. So as you can see, this voter registration card is very, very small. It's about the size of an ID card, which you can fold up, which I just did, and you can put this in your wallet. I keep mine in my wallet at all times. You keep this in your wallet at all times if possible. You may never need it, but the thing is it better safe to have it than not have it? Because the thing is, if they can't find you by your name, or they can't find you by your address, they can always find you by that voter ID number. So make sure you have your voter registration card. So I'm going to say this again. The important date to remember is November the 3rd. If you are not registered to vote wherever you are living, please, please, please get your voter registration cards in now. Because not every state is going to have same-day voter registration. I know the state of Maryland does have same-day voter registration, but in order to avoid the crowds and in order to save you a lot of headache, then please, please, please register early. Make sure you do that as soon as you can. And also, if you get an absentee ballot, fill that out as soon as you can. That way, by the time the elections are all over, they can start tallying up and totaling up those poll votes as soon as they can. They should not take 2 months to count all of that information. That should take maybe at the most a month. But the thing is, make sure you sign whatever is given to you. Make sure you read it over. If you're not clear on something, don't be afraid to ask your election poll workers. I don't understand this. Can you break this down for me? And when you do that, that will say, okay, I don't understand. Could you explain it to me? I'll start that as soon as I finish one thing, Jody. So one other thing with the election judge workers. We, in the state of Maryland, we will get a manual. This is my manual for this year. I get this every 2 years. I get a new one depending on the election because we get the information on how to start, learn how to use the equipment. We also learn about how to, if we have any technical issues that our technician may not be able to do. We also have copies of the forms. That way we can see what it looks like when our judges may not know what to do. And basically, we can use this. It's like our Bible. It's not a Bible, obviously, but we use this to help us out in so many ways. This is basically our go-to help. There's a lot of helpful information in this. So if you're an election judge and you have a voter manual, make sure you take that with you. Because I take mine with me, even though I've been doing this for 16 years now. But there's still stuff I want to make sure I understand completely. So how did I get started with this particular job, in case you may be wondering? I actually started this job in 2004. My dad was working as a contractor for the people that were working on the electronic poll books at the time. And they needed somebody to work on it and everything. So my state is predominantly one particular political party, and they needed another political party because our state does not have that many of that type of voters in our state. And my dad asked me, was I registered as a particular political party member? And I said, yes, I am. And at the time, they didn't give you that much money as an election worker. Basically, where I was assigned, I had to do work without very much training. Now they give you training. Now you're paid for the training. And now if you're not sure on things, you can ask questions. The training is typically about 3 hours. You normally have a trainer who has been doing it for quite a while, and they will break it down for you to understand what's going on. So basically, if you're not sure on something, you are constantly asking your trainer, hey, what do I do? And hopefully if you have a good judge, then you can ask them. If you're still not sure, go to your manual. Your manual should help you out a lot. And so basically, after I started the election job, 2 years later, in 2006, my father was diagnosed with bone cancer already at this point. He could not do it. They asked for more election judge workers for our local county. My father was not able to do it. I said, I could do it. My mom volunteered to do it as well. Obviously, this is not a volunteer kind of job, what I do. My job is not considered volunteer. It is all paid. We get paid depending on what we do. So as a regular poll worker, I will get, say, normally I get $200 for election and $50 for training, but this year, because of the virus situation, it's gone up to $300 and still $50 for training. So that's a great thing. So that's helping out a lot. So basically, whenever there's an election for that particular year, they will let you know where you're assigned, who you're working with. And if you have a really good team, you can tell your chief judge, hey, I'm really strong in this area. Can you help me with this? Can I help with that? And once you get started with that, then if you start being assigned to the same place over and over and over again, then you can start getting a rhythm going. And it's really great because it gives you a chance to interact with the public. But the thing is, as an election job worker, I cannot do one thing in particular. I cannot show up wearing all red. Like I have this red bandana. I cannot show up wearing all red because that's going to make it seem like I'm supporting a particular political party. Or I can't show up in all blue because that's going to show up as if I'm supporting the other political party. So the thing is, on election day, I don't wear either one of those colors to save a lot of headache. It saves me from saying, hey, I'm affiliated with a particular political party. It also says that I'm taking my job seriously. Also, I cannot tell voters when they come in to vote, how do you vote? That is your choice. That's your business. You vote based on what you feel is best for you. So what I'm trying to say is I have to keep my personal opinions about a particular candidate, a particular situation, particular questions to myself. I also have to keep my voting area clear as a judge because the thing is, we have people coming throughout the day. We've got literally hundreds of people coming throughout the day, and they're saying, hey, I'm coming in to vote. When you do that, you want to make sure that that's clear because there's also people that are watching and observing you, and they're taking notes and they're reporting back to the board, hey, this person's doing a good job, this person's doing a lousy job. So what I'm trying to say is, as an election job judge, I have to make sure that I keep integrity by making sure I keep my area clear. I make sure it's safe. I don't tell anybody what I feel like I should be voting or what they should be voting, even though I disagree or agree with a particular candidate. I just say, happy voting. See you next time. Have a good day. That's all I say. I don't ever say, have a good election, Democrats, or have a good election, Republicans. I don't say that. I constantly am making sure I keep it politically neutral. That way, if they do get word back to the board, it doesn't seem like I'm supporting a particular party. I just say, you know, have a good election. See you next time. Have a good day. That's very much politically neutral. So like I said, I always have to make sure I keep that safe. I make that secure. So yeah, so I'm going to open up for questions. So like I said, you can ask any question you want to know. I'll try to answer that as best as I can. If I don't know, I will let you know. But basically, like I said, as an election job, judge worker, I work every other election. I did not work the one in the primary one because they did not assign me, but I will be doing the one in November. I will be assigned to a particular place, and I will have to work from tentatively about prior to 6 a.m. until the polls close. So basically, the polls open at a particular time, yes, but we also have to set up the night before to make sure all the equipment is set up. We don't turn anything on, but we make sure it's set up properly. If there's any issues, then we contact the board the next morning and let them know, hey, we're having an issue, we're having a concern. Can you send somebody out to help us out with this? And they typically will send a technician out as soon as quickly as possible. And once they send the technician out, the technician may be with you. At first, we didn't have a technician with us, but now we do have technicians typically in the polling site with us. That way we can say, hey, my equipment's not working, something's been tampered with, something doesn't seem right, something's not safe. Can you help us restart this equipment? Because if it's not working, then we have to make sure that we get equipment that is working. And so I myself, like I said, have been doing this since 2004, and it's a very tedious, but it's also a good way to interact with the public in a fresh new way. Like I said, I don't tell anybody what they should vote or not vote because that's their personal preference. That's their personal decision. That's all on them, basically. That's all up to you, what you want to vote or not vote. But like I said, saying your vote does not count, it does count. Your vote absolutely does count. The only ones that do not count are the ones that are obviously not signed or filled out in any shape or form. The only ones that are counted are the ones that are signed and completed. One thing that's important to remember too is if you get an absentee ballot and you want to vote at your particular voting site, you tell them, yes, I got an absentee ballot or I voted early, but I still want to vote now. They'll throw out the previous vote and they will count the one that you did on that day on November. And the other two, say you voted early, that will be thrown out. But if you choose to do the one in November, prior to November, then that one will count. But like I said, you don't get more than one vote. You only get one vote. Yes, popular vote and electoral vote. Okay, so electoral college votes and popular vote are a little bit different. But the thing is, okay, so with the popular vote, is going to count with the electoral votes typically are a little bit different. It's kind of complicated to explain that one, but the popular vote basically, when you go to a particular time when they ask you to vote, when you come in there to vote and then when you leave, they'll ask you, how did you vote? Now, they don't always ask you, how did you vote? Sometimes they will, sometimes they won't. You can choose to answer or not answer. Remember that zero report I mentioned at the very beginning? And the one that shows up at the very end. Well, the thing is, your vote, if there was, say, 600 Democrats and, say, 200 Republicans, they're going to say that, okay, tentatively, there looks like it's going to be more Democrats in that case. And that's going to be counted in that case. So in those kind of case, your vote will be counted with the Electoral College and the popular vote. The electoral one is basically for the whole state. That's not just your vote. So basically, the popular vote is basically what the majority of the states seem to be voting. So that means if more people are voting for the Democratic candidate, then that's going to count as the popular vote. And if it seems like it's like 75% people that are voting Democrat, then they will put that for the electoral vote. If it's in the opposite direction, is also for the Republicans. If it's, say, 75% Republicans in that kind of case, then they're going to say, okay, then the 75% voted will go for the electoral vote, and they will give that to the Republicans. I hope that makes sense what I'm saying. But like I said, the popular vote is basically based on what it seems like the majority of the people in that particular party are voting. And if it seems to be more people for a particular political party, then that will count for the electoral vote in one way. So electoral vote is basically the majority of the state's votes. Popular vote is basically the majority of the people in that state, but it's going to be based on what they call exit polling. So the exit polling is, like I said, the slip of paper that lets us know, hey, 200 Democrats came to vote at this particular site. 200 Democrats voted at this particular site. Hey, LG Pixel, good to see you, my good friend. So basically, the popular vote will say, okay, we've got 400 Democrats, 400 Democrats, 400 Democrats, 400 Democrats, 400 Democrats, 400, 400, 400, 400. They'll take all that, say 400s, take them together, lump them together, and then they'll put them and send them to the Electoral College. The Electoral College will then take, because it seems to be more, say, Democrat, then the Democrats will go with that particular vote, and they will say, okay, the president got this state. This candidate got this state. Some people may not still understand it, even if with that, Jody's still with the Electoral College. That's the only thing is, it's kind of hard to explain, but what I'm trying to explain as best as I can is basically the popular vote is based on the exit polling. The electoral one is different. Like I said, it all depends on if your state is predominantly one particular political party and most of the votes seem to be for that particular political party, then that's how they determine what to do for the Electoral College. That's why you will see on the map at the very end of the night, you'll see red over here, say, blue over here. Like I said, that's why you see the variety of the colors. It's all depends on the exit polling, though. It's based off of that. That's how they're able to say at, say, 11 o'clock at night, hey, it looks like candidate ABC won over candidate XYZ. Because it's all based on all that exit polling. Because they're looking over the papers, too. Because they're seeing the papers, okay, 200 people came here, 200 people came here, 500 came here. Like I said, it all depends on the particular place. Some states will get more votes, yes. Some states will get less votes. That's why they try to determine what it is. They're always looking at these exit polling places because that's the big key right there is the exit polling polls. They're always following that. Like I said, when we first open up, it's all zeros. At the end of the night, it's a much longer sheet because I have had sheets literally as long as a CVS receipt. And they literally tape it from the top of the, say at the top of the ceiling almost, all the way down to the floor. And they literally are looking through every single one. Why is there, so why is there, it is one way. It is all one way. Okay, when you go in to vote, it's typically done either paper or electronic, but it's the same exact ballot. The only reason why it would be different is if you went to a place, let's say I live in Baltimore and I go to Annapolis. Now, those are two different counties altogether. And I really, really want to vote. Let's say I work, let's say I work outside in Annapolis. Say I work at the Naval Academy. And I really, really want to vote. And I see a site that says vote here. When I see that sign, I can go in there and say, hey, I'm not registered to vote in this particular place, but I am registered to vote, but I want to vote. The difference is I wouldn't get to vote for, say, a local sheriff. I wouldn't get to vote for a particular mayor. So the reason why we do it two different ways versus, say, electronic or paper, it's all a matter of convenience. We're trying to make it as easy as possible for people to vote. Not everybody wants to bubble in every single vote. Some people want to touch the screen. Some people prefer to bubble it in. It's hard to explain, Jody, because the thing is, you never know. Like, I'll give an example for our state of Maryland. In our state of Maryland, it is predominantly a Democratic state. In this state, because more people voted for Republican Larry Hogan, that state went to Larry Hogan and became a Republican state. So because of things shifting like that, I don't know why they don't do it all one way. I know it's a little kind of confusing, Jody, but that's the only reason why they do it that way. It's just, I know it's confusing, but because you never know if it's going to go, because that's why throughout the night you might see the map go in red, 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 and then you might see blue, blue, blue. And then you'll see the mix of the two. So like I said, each polling site closes tentatively at 7 or 8 p.m. local time. In the state of Maryland, the polls typically close at 8 p.m. Some other states may close their polls an hour earlier. So because they close theirs earlier, it basically means that they are looking at the exit polling site that they saw, and they're saying, oh, we've got a whole bunch of Republicans, or we have a whole bunch of Democrats. And guess what? That's what happens. I understand they want to do their own research, Jody, but the thing is, not everybody's going to do their own research. I understand what you're saying. I really do. I get what you're saying. I really, really do. But not everybody's going to do that research. And that's why I'm trying to break it down for you tonight as much as I can to say, hey, your vote does count. Don't come up with some line saying my vote doesn't count, because I don't like when people say my vote doesn't count, because it does count. The only reason why your vote would not count is if you turned in an empty ballot and you didn't sign it. That's why it's so important to make sure you sign your ballot, if you sign whatever they give you, such as my voter registration card that I've got right here with me. I signed that. That makes it legal. If I don't sign this, then this is not legal. If I don't sign my ballot at the end of the night, it's not legal. They're going to just throw it out. So that's why it's so important that make sure you sign whatever is given to you. Exactly. Thank you, Crystal. The electoral one gives the smaller states a vote because they can't always have it. That's what I've seen, yes. But I'm just saying, with the electoral ones, some of these smaller states, such as Rhode Island. Rhode Island is the smallest state in the United States. That one, unfortunately, you could not determine how it's going to go. So that's why they give them the electoral votes. That way they can have a vote. That way they can have a voice. That way they're not shifted away, because you don't know. Some of these larger states, they have a larger voice, obviously. But some of these smaller ones, like Rhode Island, they don't have that much of a voice, so to speak. But like I said, it's so, so important to make sure that you do go out there and vote, because if you don't go out there and vote, then you're not having a voice, in my opinion. Because there's so many people out there that need to go out there and vote, that they're registered to vote, they don't understand it. Make sure that's the thing. What I'm trying to say is make sure you go out there and check out these candidates while you can. Right now it's October the 1st. You have one whole month to get ready for this election. Make sure you check out about these candidates. Make sure you go online. Make sure you make the phone calls for these particular political officers and say, hey, what does your candidate stand on this? What's your political stand on this? If you can get what they're standing for now or not standing for now, then that way it'll go so much smoother. That way when you get your ballot, you'll be able to fill it in and say, yes, yes, no, 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 whatever. You'll know who you're going to vote for. If you're still not sure, obviously you're going to have to choose the lesser of two evils, so to speak. You need to choose the one that you feel like is the best choice. If you think it was a Democrat, go for it. If you think it's a Democrat, go for it. If you think it's even an independent, go for that. All I'm saying is make sure you go out there and vote, because too many people are just literally taking these registration cards and just literally almost like throwing them away as if they mean nothing. These do mean something. I don't know how you would do the electoral vote. You have to contact them. But all of these votes that we got, all these exit polls and everything, like all that is sent to the electoral college. That's all sent to them. That's all taken to them. They will look this over and they will take care of that. They will take every single vote that we got and they'll take that and scoop it up and then do whatever they do with it. You got to talk to the electoral college to find out what they do with that. That's a particular branch altogether that handles those votes. Once we get these polls closed up, say at 10 o'clock at night, we don't know what happens to the ballots from there. We know they're obviously counted and everything like that, but what happens beyond that, we don't know. They could throw them all out, but as far as I know, obviously they don't throw them out because they say to the nightly news, hey, we got da 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 da. What I'm trying to say is go out there and vote. Don't go and say, no, not everybody's going to do their own research. But the thing is, what I'm trying to say is I'm trying to help people who don't do the research to know the importance of voting and why it's important to vote, because not everybody knows that. Some people don't realize the importance of it. That's the thing what I'm trying to say is. Because the thing is, there's so many people out there who need to know the importance of voting. Because when you turn 18 years old, you have a legal right, which is given to you in the Constitution, that you have the right to vote. You also have the right to petition. You have the right to protest. But the thing is, if you don't go out there and do these kind of things, then you have no voice. And like I said, this really pisses me off when I hear people complain. Honestly, I get so pissed off when I hear people say, oh, I don't like how this candidate did this. I don't like how this person did that. Well, first of all, did you even vote? If you did vote, then I can sort of understand. But if you didn't vote, then you got no right to complain. Because the thing is, you can live in a country where you don't have a voice. There's some countries out there that really don't have a voice. They don't have a chance to speak up. They don't have a chance to say the importance of what they feel is right because they live, say, in a dictatorship or they live in a place where there's communism. No, you cannot vote electoral instead of popular voting. You cannot do that, Jody. You cannot do that. Your vote went to the electoral college. Your vote, your ballot went to the electoral college. So it's not, your vote still went to the electoral college whether you wanted to or you. That's what happened to your vote. It went to the electoral place. Your vote went to the electoral college. It's both popular and electoral. They all go together. They mesh together. Let's say this is the electoral, this is the popular. Boom. They're married to each other now. They can't get rid of them. They went together, and guess what? The electoral college is going to say, oh, well, we seem to have more Republicans over here, or we have more Democrats over here, so we're going to take all of that. So no, you can't vote electoral. The electoral colleges are so separate from that altogether. The electoral one will determine what's best. They have their own chart. They have their own paperwork that they're filling out. You've got to contact them in order to do the electoral kind of thing. That's so different from election stuff. That's all different, very different. I don't know how you do that. I mean, I don't know where you would go to fill out. I really don't. But no, your popular vote and your electoral one, they're both going to be married to each other. They're both going together. Because your vote went to them. But no, you don't sign up for that. You cannot sign up for that right now. So no, you cannot vote electoral because that's going to go, the electoral one is mainly your particular state. Your state will be based on what goes on. Okay, so here's what I'm reading online. So let me share my screen. Okay, so we're going to read this together. What is the Electoral College? A closer look at how Americans elect their presidents. When Americans cast their votes for president, they are in reality directing other people called electors to vote for the candidate who receives the most vote in their state. The political party of the winning candidate in each state then sends its pre-selected electors to the state capital to vote. This is the Electoral College, and its members elect the president and vice president of the United States. Why does this progress exist? The framers of the Constitution established the Electoral College in the Constitution to forge a compromise between those who wanted to be president to be elected by members of Congress and those who wanted to be president elected by a popular vote. Today, 530 electors constitute the Electoral College. Each state is allocated electors equal to its number of representatives in the United States of Representatives, currently 435, plus 2 senators, a total of 100. The District of Columbia is also allocated 3 electorals. These numbers change every 10 years based on the results on the census. That's why you need to make sure you have your census things. State laws differ on how electors are chosen, and you can choose where they're chosen. So Maryland has got 10 electoral votes. New York has got 29. And Rhode Island has got 4. Delaware's got 3. DC's got 3. So as you can see on this map, that certain states have got more votes than others. The ones that are more west don't have that many people out there. So that's basically how the Electoral College works. So basically, your vote that you got was given to the Electoral College. The Electoral College, basically, in layman's terms, went to the Electoral College and they took that vote and they determined, okay, this state needs to go to this candidate, which is a Democrat, or this state needs to go to a Republican, or this state needs to go to an independent. Very seldom does it go to an independent. Normally they choose between Democrat and Republican. That's why they always try to say you need to make sure you are Democrat or Republican. But the thing is, to me, if you feel like an independent is a better choice than, say, the Democrat or the Republican, then go with them. So as you can see, the ones in the further west, such as Montana, North Dakota, South Dakota, Wyoming, Idaho, they have lower popular votes. Hawaii and Alaska both each have small amounts, such as 4 and 3. So, like I said, certain states obviously have a larger amount than others. But like I said, if the state particularly seems to have more people vote in a particular way, then obviously that state will turn red or blue on election night when we see that map at the end of the night. It will not turn that color unless they determine what the popular vote is. So if there was more candidates for XYZ and he happens to be a Democrat, then that state will go to him. If more people seem to vote for candidate ABC and he happens to be a Republican, then that state will get that state. I hope that's making sense, because that's basically, it seems like that's what how the Electoral College will work. So, like I said, so many times I have heard people saying that my vote doesn't count. It does count. You yourself do not join the Electoral College. Your vote is sent to the Electoral College and they determine based off of 500, say, ballots. Say there's 375 votes for candidate XYZ and he happens to be a Democrat, then they will take that and say, give this state to that candidate. If it doesn't go to that candidate, then it would obviously go to the other candidate. Because they can't give it to an independent. I've never seen an independent win, but that would be interesting if that ever happened. I don't know how the map would look in those kind of cases. It probably would be some green mixed into the map instead of blue and red. But like I said, make sure you're registered to vote. Please make sure you are registered, because it's so important to make sure you are registered to vote. If you're not registered to vote, you need to do so between now and November 3rd. The state of Maryland has got same-day voter registration. Some states, I do not know if they do or not. Crystal, do they have same-day voter registration in North Carolina? We can't eliminate the Electoral College. We can't. We cannot eliminate the Electoral College, pure and simple, Jody, because look at this map again. Let's look back at this map one more time. And you will see for yourself that some of these places do not have enough people to vote. They've got a very small amount of people. Let's see if we can zoom in a little. Okay, thank you, Crystal. I just want to make sure. I don't know if all states have that. Like I said, I know Maryland does, but look at these states right here, Jody, and anybody else that's watching. A lot of these western states, Idaho, Nevada, Utah, Nebraska, South Dakota, North Dakota, Iowa, Hawaii and Alaska, Rhode Island, DC, Delaware, Maine, Vermont, New Hampshire, West Virginia, all of them have less than 10, and I mean 10, electoral votes. If we were to eliminate those places, we would be eliminating those votes. So 3, 3, 3, that's 9, 12. So that's 12 votes right there. That's 12 votes right there. And I have not left the West Coast. 12. Let's add in Alaska. That's 3 more. That's 15. Let's add in one more. Let's take, say, Delaware. That's 18. Let's add in Vermont. So 18 plus 3, that's 21. Let's add in DC. That's 24. We're eliminating at least 24 votes right there. If we get rid of the Electoral College, we're getting rid of 24 votes. And you're supposed to have, let's see. Okay, so they need 538. If we eliminate those states that I just mentioned, those 28 right there, we eliminate those 28 right there, we have literally eliminated almost 1/10 of the electoral votes right then and there. But they're not that large of a state, Jody. If you eliminate these states, so let's do what you're suggesting then. Let's do what you're suggesting. I mean, pure and simple. Let's go with that, okay? So let's just do what you're suggesting. So let's do that right now. Let's just do what you're suggesting, Jody. Pure and simple. Let's see what happens when I eliminate those popular votes. Let's just eliminate those states and see what happens. So let's see what happens when I get rid of those states. Okay, let's give this up. Whoops. I want to see it cooperate, so yeah, leave that. Yeah, we have that too. But do they have same day registration? Because we do same day registration though. Okay, so that's for North Carolina. All right. All righty. So we'll go with this. Okay. Yeah. So we do early voting, but we also do same day registration. So that's one thing that we are doing. So, like I said, not all states will do that. It depends on the state. Alrighty. Let's do away with that one. And go to share screen. Okay, so Crystal is going to subtract for me. Those of you that are in the chat, we're going to basically see what happens when we eliminate the electoral college votes. So remember, we have to have 535. So let's see. Let's see what happens, Jody, though, when we do away with the electoral stuff. Okay, so alrighty. Crystal is going to keep up with that for me. All right. Okay. So the first one we're going to get rid of is Alaska. So 535, let's get rid of Alaska. So that's -3. Next one is Montana. That's -3 as well. Hold on a second, guys. Let's see. Okay, here we go. So I know what I can do. So we did away with Alaska. So Alaska is gone. Okay, so dog is gone. Where the dog is, that's basically what we're eliminating. All right. Next one. Montana. Montana is gone. Next, I'm going to eliminate North Dakota. Let me know when you're ready for the next one, Crystal. Three. Montana was for three for Montana. Montana was three. Okay, yeah. That's okay. Two of them were three, and Alaska was three. So you should have 9 subtracted. Because 3 of them were worth the 3. Let me know when you're ready for the next one. Okay, so next one, we're going to eliminate Wyoming. Another 3. Okay. We're going to eliminate South Dakota. That's another 3. Okay. We're going to eliminate Idaho. That's -4. Like I said, guys, on your map that you're looking at in front of you, wherever I'm putting the dog, we're getting rid of that's the vote we're getting rid of. Okay? I'm going to eliminate Hawaii. That's a 4. I'm going to get rid of all these ones that have less than 10 votes, basically. Okay. I'm going to get rid of Rhode Island. That's another 4. Okay. Next is DC. That's -3. Okay, so we're at 505 now votes. Okay, thank you very much, Crystal, for keeping up for me. All right. Next, we're going to get rid of Delaware. That's 3 votes there. Okay. Next, we're going to get rid of Maine. That's 4 votes there. Okay. So we're finally out of the 500s. We're at 498. Vermont, 3. Okay. Next is New Hampshire. We're going to get rid of that one. That's for 4. Okay. Next, we're going to get rid of Connecticut, 7. Okay. Next, we're going to get rid of Oregon. That's 7 as well. So Oregon was number 7. Just waiting for Crystal to catch it. Okay. So she's at 477. All right. We're going to get rid of Nevada. That one is 6. Nevada was number Let me check what Nevada was real quick. Nevada was, I believe it was 6. Let me just double check. Yeah, Nevada was 6. Sorry, Nevada was 6. Yeah. Okay. Okay. All right, she's caught up with me, guys. Okay. Next, we're going to do Utah. It's 6. I'm just going to put this dog over both of those. I'm doing both of them. So that one was 6. So we're at 465. Okay, thank you very much, Crystal. Next, we're going to get rid of New Mexico. That one is at 5. Okay, we're at 460. Okay, thank you very much, Crystal, for keeping up with that. Our next one is going to be Colorado, 9. Colorado at 9. Okay, thank you very much. Next one is going to be Minnesota. We're going to get rid of Minnesota. Minnesota is 10. And we'll get rid of the one beside of it, which is 10 as well. So get rid of 20 for that one, Crystal. 2 of them are going to be 10 each. Okay, thank you. Next, we're going to get rid of Maryland. That one is 10 as well. Okay, thank you. Next, we're going to get rid of Nebraska. 5. Nebraska at 5. Okay, thank you. All right, I'm going to eliminate Oklahoma at 7. Okay, so we're at $3.99 now. All right, let's eliminate another one. Kansas at 6. All right, thank you. Next, we're going to eliminate Iowa. It's 6. Thank you. Next, we're going to eliminate West Virginia at 5. Thank you. We're going to eliminate Missouri at 10. Thank you. Next, we're going to eliminate Arkansas at 6. Thank you. Next, we're going to eliminate Kentucky at 8. Thank you. Next, we're going to get rid of Louisiana at 8. Thank you. Let's get rid of Mississippi and Alabama. They are 6 and 9. So I'm getting both of them at the same time. Mississippi is 6, Alabama is 9. All right, thank you. Our next one is South Carolina. Nothing against South Carolina personally, but South Carolina's got only 9. So they got to go bye-bye. All right. Since we've still got some that are less than, let's change it up now since we're down to where we've got some 12s, we've got some 11s, we've got some 20s and stuff. So let's do all the ones that are all less than 20. Washington, 12. Let's get rid of them. Nothing against Washington. Well, let's get rid of Washington. All right, so we're at 314. All right, our next one on our list is going to be, I believe this is Michigan. So they go away at 16. All right, thank you. The next one will be Massachusetts at 11. All right, thank you. Next one will be New Jersey at 14. All right, thank you. Next is going to be Virginia at 13. Nothing against Virginia. And I'm going to eliminate, sorry, no offense to North Carolinians, 15. Yeah, nothing against you. It's nothing against you. You know it's nothing against you per se, my dear. Arizona. Sorry, Arizonians. We're going to get rid of 11 for you. Okay. Next is going to be Tennessee. Nothing against Tennessee. I got some lovely people there, but they are 11. Thank you. Next is going to be Georgia, 16. Nothing against you guys, Georgia. I love you guys. I really do. Thank you. Next is Indiana at 11. And the last one I'm going to eliminate, nothing against you guys. You guys are wonderful people. Ohio at 18. All right. So our final total is 178. And that's what happens if you eliminate a lot of the states. So we've got New York left, we've got Pennsylvania left, we've got Illinois, Florida, Texas, and California. That is hardly the popular amount of the votes for all of the states if we eliminate all of them. Now, like I said, you can see with this representation with just the dogs and the calculation that Crystal, who's lovely, thank you, Crystal, so much, my dear, for doing that for me, to subtract in all these numbers for me, that you need 535 votes in order to do that. When we look at this chart with the dogs and stuff like that, we can see that that is hardly not enough to count as votes, because these all that are eliminated have less than 30 votes. They have 20 or less. And the thing is, if we eliminate these electoral votes, you see that the majority of the states are all eliminated. Look at this sea of dogs. I mean, literally, I have a sea of dogs right here on the computer. If I take away 2 others, that would eliminate 40 of them. That would eliminate Pennsylvania and Chicago. That's 40 if I take care of them. But I'm not going to do that. I'm going to leave them there because those are very popular states. But as you can see, if we do away with the Electoral College, as Jody is asking and suggesting in the chat, what happens to all of these states? Our state gets eliminated. Maryland gets eliminated. DC gets eliminated. This whole row of dogs you can see right in front of you is what happens when you eliminate. Why would we want to get rid of the Electoral College when it's helping get so many votes out there? Do we really, really want to get rid of the Electoral College in that kind of case and focus only on the popular vote? Do we really, really want to do that? I mean, it doesn't make a lick of sense. It really doesn't. I mean, if you think we ought to get rid of the Electoral College, I present to you Exhibit A, the dog chart. Crystal, who graciously, lovely, totaled it up for me, what was left from the 535 votes. That's only 178 votes that are out there, and that's not giving enough votes to any particular person. So that's not fair to anyone. That's not fair to the states that have smaller amounts to not have a choice. We need that vote. So me check something out. 178 divided by 2. That means only 89 votes are possible if we do just the electoral votes only. Each candidate can only get about 89 votes. But if we have the 535 and divide that by 2, we have about 268 votes possible. Which one would you rather have, the popular or the electoral one? Personally, I think we need both. The popular one, yes, that's great to know what the majority of the state is saying, but it's also to know that our state has a vote and a voice to speak up, to say what they think is important as well. Which one would you rather have? Would you rather have the electoral one if we go by just the popular states, or do we stick to what it is? Leave it alone. Leave the chart completely alone. Don't have anything. Like I said, to me, I think it's best if we follow what is in place already, because if not, as you can see on your screen, we've literally got a sea of dogs here on the screen of places that we eliminated from just popular votes from the Electoral College that all have 20 or less votes. All of them have 21 or less votes in that particular state. I don't think we want to do that. I don't think we want to eliminate these electoral votes because we need those votes so much. If we get rid of that, then we're missing out on so much. I hope that answers your question, Jody, or anyone else out there that's watching this and says, do we need the Electoral College? As you can see, the proof is on the chart. You see what happens when we eliminate all of that. There's only 89 votes possible per candidate if we do that. And 89 votes is just going to be literally not even a whole population for a particular state. That might cover a particular county. That may just cover one particular town for certain states. And if we eliminate that, is that really fair to them? I don't think so. So if you say, let's get rid of the Electoral College, look for yourself. Look what happens when we eliminate all of that. I don't think we want to get rid of the Electoral College. As we can see, it's important to have the Electoral College. I went through it with you guys, step by step, and Crystal was grateful enough to go into the adding and subtracting it up for me. And like I said, you see for yourself, 178 votes, that's really not enough to say this is the most popular choice. Is that really what we want to do? Are we really going to say my vote doesn't count? Because if not, you don't have a voice. They're going to just follow the popular vote in that case. And if you're in a smaller state, even though it might be a larger population, you don't have a voice then. You need the Electoral College and you need the popular vote. You need both of those. Because if not, it all becomes chaos. And as an election judge worker, I find it so important to go out there and vote. I see people that are literally almost 90 years old or even older, literally walk into these polling sites saying, I've been out here waiting since 7 a.m. for the polls to open to come vote. If these elderly people can make an effort to go out there and vote, then how much more so for the rest of us? If these elderly people can make an effort to go out there and vote, regardless of weather, regardless of storm, regardless of handicaps, why can't we who are able-bodied and more healthier than compared to them go out there and vote? Why shouldn't we go out there and vote? That's one of our duties as an American citizen because it's in the Constitution for us to vote. But I just showed you the electoral. You are eliminating so many states when you eliminate. That's doing popular right there. Look for yourself. So many states are eliminated when you do that. If you're following just the popular vote, the majority of the states are gone. Because let me see how many states are left. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 states out of 50? Ouch. I don't think so. We need both the electoral and the popular. We don't need just one. We need both. They need to mesh together. You need the electoral one to mesh with the popular vote. That way, these people who have the smaller votes, like I said, with these dogs on the chart, so to speak, do you really want your vote to be not counted? Look for yourself. I eliminated over half of the United States when I just did popular voting. I went to the more popular states that are more populous, the ones that have the higher ones. I mean, if you want to keep on going, I can ask Crystal to start the count up again with the 178, and we can eliminate those. I mean, I'll take. Okay, let's do that. Let's eliminate these 2 other states. I'll eliminate those 2 other states if you want me to. But then that leaves us only 4 states out of 50. That leaves us 4 states out of 50 to have a say in who our next president or next senators or next representatives are if we eliminate the electoral votes. All these states where you see the dog picture at, they don't have a voice then. They don't have a voice then. Only 6 states out of 50 would have a say. So that means us in the Washington, D.C. area wouldn't have a say. Those in the East Coast area, such as New Hampshire, Connecticut, Rhode Island, Massachusetts, some of our founding states would not have a say. Almost the whole West Coast is gone, except for California. California would be the only one that has a say on the whole West Coast. Texas is the only one from the mountain area. The central time zone, we've got Chicago and parts of Florida. Most of the East Coast is gone, except for New York and Pennsylvania. So if we eliminate these particular places, they have no say. I don't think we need to say eliminate the Electoral College. The Electoral College needs to mesh with the popular vote. And we need to make sure we're out there voting. Like I said, I see people who come in to vote. And these are some sweet, sweet gentlemen and ladies who come in to vote. And they are much older than me, much older than my mother. And they're in their 80s and 90s. And some are even close to 100 that come out to vote. Why can't we, who are much younger than that, go out there and vote? We need to make sure we go out there and vote, and make sure you're registered to vote. Your state may not have same-day voter registration, but you need to make sure you are registered to vote, because if not, your vote literally gets ignored. It doesn't become anything. It just gets thrown out the window. I don't think we want that kind of legacy left behind, saying, well, I try to make a good home for my kids, but wait a minute here. Our founding fathers gave us these rights for a reason. They were trying to take us away from a dictatorship that was over in England. If we don't want dictatorship here in America, then we need to go out there and vote. And that's fine, Mr. CCDV. That's perfect. Vote from home. The only reason they wouldn't have a say, Jody, is pure and simple if they don't come to the polls or if they don't complete their ballot. You don't complete your ballot, it gets thrown out the window. It really does. Dogs, Mr. CDV. I mean, pure and simple. We throw away the popular vote, we throw away the electoral vote, and say our vote doesn't count. It's ridiculous. It's really insane that people think my vote doesn't count. Your vote does count. Like I said earlier in the stream, we get 2 numbers at the one at the very beginning. That's fine. That is totally fine, Mr. CCDV. And I stay out of politics most of the time. The only time I come out of politics is when I'm doing the election job. And I do that every other year. And I tell people you need to go out and vote. That's all I'm saying. That's the most important thing to do, is say I'm going to vote. Because like I said, at the very beginning of the election, there's going to be a 0 report printed out to show that your equipment was not tampered with. And then at the end of the night, there's another report that's printed out to show how many people showed up. Like I said, if you don't vote, your vote does not have a voice. The only ones that get thrown out are the ones that are not signed or even completed. We have this right as an American citizen that our founding fathers did to make sure we had a vote. If we don't vote, we have no say. And the country goes to chaos. Because the thing is, We need these votes. I'm not saying to vote for the Democrats. I'm not saying to vote Republican. I'm saying vote. If you think it's the best person to vote for a particular way, go for it. If you think it's a way to vote another way, go for it. But make sure you're voting. Get your voter registration card. I've got mine right here. I keep it in my wallet. I just brought it out tonight for effect to show that you need to have this on you. Keep it in your wallets. Keep it in your purses, ladies. Keep it on you. Because if you don't keep this on you, maybe you say it's nothing. Well, guess what? There's some numbers on here that are important. They tell you where to vote. They tell you your address. They tell you what party affiliation you are. They tell you other things, sometimes like congressional district that you're in. They tell you what legislative thing. Exactly. Exactly. Thank you, Mr. CDV. Whether you like what's going on, go vote. Because the thing is, you can live somewhere else where you don't have the same. Because you could live, say, in a country down in the Sudan where they don't have a vote. If you don't like who won, guess what? You can always wait till the next election and wait till they rerun. Exactly. Exactly. I'm going to post that. And I so agree with that one. Because I so agree with what Crystal is saying. Because if you don't agree with what's being going on, then change it. Go out there and vote. Go out there and change it by going out there and voting. If you don't vote, you have no right to complain. Exactly. Exactly. That's my point exactly. If you don't like what's going on, vote. If you do like what's going on and you still support what's going on, vote. But don't come up with some line that I have heard for so long. My vote doesn't count. Look at this chart with these ugly, cute little dogs. If you don't live in a popular state, so if we're not in New York, if we're not in Pennsylvania, if we're not in Illinois, if we're not in Florida, if we're not in Texas, and we're not in California, guess what? Our vote will mean nothing if we just follow the popular vote. I mean, pure and simple. It's not rocket science. And if you need help with voting, guess what? You could always tell your people at your voting site, hey, I need some help. Can you have someone help me? And that's one of the things that we do. We will help you. And if you don't have somebody to help you, because here in the state of Maryland, we have this thing where if you need help with someone needs help voting, saying, hey, I need help voting, you can have somebody assist you if they're with you. But if you don't, we can always have an election judge come and help you and say, hey, ma'am or sir, do you need some assistance? And we will help them. That's part of our job. We get trained to do that. I get trained to do this every 2 years. I've got my manual right here. And I get this every 2 years. And they always tell us, if you need help, exactly. The electoral college is supposed to vote with the popular vote. Do it. Exactly. You need to have training voters like these, like what I'm doing. Exactly. Thank you. I mean, there's forms in here that us election judges have to do. If something's not right, guess what? We can fix that, hopefully. We have technicians there on site to help us. If we get stuck, we're trained to do these things. But if you say my vote doesn't count, that's a bunch of BS if I ever heard such a thing. Because your vote does count. Throughout the day, like I said at the very beginning, we do a thing called a zero report. And it shows your equipment was not tampered with. Throughout the day, we check that equipment to make sure it's not tampered with. And then at the end of the night, we print out a different report. And it shows it's not tampered with. And it also shows how many people came in to vote. That way, we can get more equipment or less equipment for a particular site. That way, pure and simple, in layman's terms, it happens because we check all the time. We're constantly making sure things are not tampered with because we want to make sure it runs smoothly. Every vote does count, yes. And I'm just going to say this again. Go out there and vote. Do your homework to find out what candidate stands for what. If you agree with it, then vote for them. If you disagree with them and you see something else, vote for that person. But I, as an election judge, I can't tell you how to vote when you come into the polling site. If you're asking me, hey, should I vote for, say, Cindy Lou versus Bobby Joe? I can't tell you because as an election judge worker, I cannot tell you what to do. That's your decision. I can't sway your vote and say, oh, red all the way or blue all the way. I can't say that. I have to be bipartisan. I cannot support either party. I have to be party neutral. So when you see me at these polling sites, you see me as party neutral. I will say, have a nice day. Hope to see you next election. But I'm not going to tell you vote a particular way. I'm just going to say, go out there and vote. But don't come up with some BS saying, my vote does not count. Your vote does count. Because if we eliminate the electoral votes, you see this. The proof is in the pudding, so to speak. We count these votes so many times throughout the day. I am constantly giving my chief judges, because we have people that we report to, and they will ask us, what is the count at such and such time in the day? They'll say, what's the count? What's the count? That way, you have more equipment at certain sites and you have less equipment. If it's a more popular site, you may end up with more equipment. If it's a less popular, you'll end up with less equipment. They're trying to make sure that it's safe for everyone to come out and vote and everything. So make sure you're registered to vote before November 3rd because it's so, so important. Don't complain, please, and say, my vote doesn't count. Because, like I said in my diagrams, I have vote or miss out. Show up and vote. Vote. It's so important. This election is so important. It's going to decide who's going to be in charge of our country for the next 4 years. If you don't vote, then somebody may win that you don't want to win. But you've got to make the effort and go out there and vote. Like I said, I see these people that are very much handicapped and very much elderly that will go and walk to these polling sites and vote. They go there really early in the morning and they will say, hey, I'm I'm such and such age and I'm here to vote. And I'll say, good for you, ma'am. Good for you, sir. I'm glad to see you. When I was working at the site where I was working at, I didn't see that many people my own age voting. I would see the older generations voting more than the younger ones. We need to go out and vote. That's all I'm going to say. We all need to go out and vote, whoever we are, whatever our age, whatever our background. If we need help, then ask. But please, please register to vote if you're not registered to vote. Because if we don't, then don't complain. That's all I can say is, if we don't vote, don't complain. Because your voice is your vote. Your voice equals what you want to see done. They can't make changes if you're not voting. I know I've been going on about this for quite a bit, but this is so, so important because as a poll worker, it means so much to me when I see people going out there voting. And when I hear about people not voting, it tears me up. Going like, well, why didn't you go vote? Why didn't you? If you're not feeling safe to go out and vote, then ask for an absentee ballot or do early voting if your state has early voting. But don't make any excuses. Please don't. I mean, I don't always agree with what's going on in the world, but I do know that it's so important for us to vote. I'm not saying we have to follow a particular party, but we need to vote. This is so, so important because if we don't vote, then we have no voice. We have no excuse to complain. So what I'm going to say is, again, if you're not registered to vote, register. If you're registered to vote, do your research on finding out about what you can about these candidates beforehand. And the main thing, like I said again, vote. Vote, 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 vote. That's all I'm going to say is that is so important for you to do is vote. Because this is so, so important. So any final questions? Like I said, register. If you're not registered, research, request your ballots if you can to either vote in person, vote via absentee, or vote early, but please vote. I know I'm going on and on about this, but too many times we are not voting and we need to vote. I have been voting since 2004. I was 19. And I've been working as an election judge since I was 19, as a poll worker since then. We always make sure everything's tamper-proof. We always make things are safe. If things are not working, then we contact the board. We're constantly making sure things are safe. But if you don't vote, you have no voice. So what I'm going to say is this. Go vote. If you're not registered to vote, register now. Find out what you can do if you can vote in person, if you feel safe to do it. If you feel better doing early voting, do that. If you feel like you need to do absentee voting, do that. But the main thing is this: vote. Don't say I can't. Because like I said, I see people that are much older than myself that are out there walking to the polls bright and early in the mornings going to vote. I see people coming late at night wanting to vote. I see people bringing in their children, and I'll make the joke to them when they have their baby on their arm. I'll say, "Oh, are you bringing in a voter?" It's kind of funny, but in a way, if they could, they'd probably let that baby vote if they could. But we have that right to vote. It's one of our constitutional rights. Us women didn't get the right to vote until the early 20th century, sadly. But now we can vote. Now we should vote. And we need to. If we don't vote, we have no right to complain. Thank you all so much for coming out for this important topic because it's so, so important that we vote. Because if we don't, then we have no right to complain. We have no excuses. So please, I'm begging you all, go register, research on your candidates, and last but not least, vote. I mean, did you have a question, LG? So let's see if LG has a question. If not, I'm going to wrap up. If he doesn't, okay. All right, guys. So thank you all so much for coming. I really appreciate everybody who came out. My name is Alicia, also known as AVP. No, and so please, 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 just make sure you register. Find out where you're supposed to vote. Research about your candidates. And last but not least, I'm going to say this again. Yes, I know you're going to get sick of me, but vote. Bye, everyone. Thank you so much for coming, everybody who came out. I'll see you guys later. Bye.